Everyone's here. Good here. Ladies, good to go?
Yes.
Cool. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the June 1st regular Planning Commission hearing. I'd like to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ariana, report on posting the agenda and roll call.
The agenda was posted. Sorry, we got new mics.
I was going to say.
The agenda was posted on Thursday, May 25th, 2023 at 5:55 p.m. Roll call. Commissioner Ellie?
Present.
Commissioner Leongard?
Yes. Here.
Commissioner Lewis?
Here.
Commissioner Montez? Out. Commissioner Ramirez? Here. Vice Chair Kushner?
Here.
Chair Bondal?
Here. And just to confirm, Commissioner Montez no longer is part of the commission. All right. Ariana, any public comments for items not on the agenda?
There are no speakers.
Perfect. Moving on to the consent agenda. Commissioners, any questions, comments, concerns? I'll make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes of May 4th, 2023.
I second the motion.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Ellie?
Yes.
Commissioner Leongard?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramirez?
Yes.
Vice Chair Kushner?
Yes.
Chair Bondal?
Yes. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 6, public hearings. We have none today on new business, which was continued from May 4th, 2023.
There we go. Better? Great. Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Darrell Jordan. I am the Public Works Director here. Works alongside Sharon here at the city. Usually you'd have my city engineer here giving you a presentation tonight, but he has moved on to a different position, so I'm here tonight to present our CIP program for you. For those of you who have reached out, I appreciate you, those who have sent me some emails and asked some questions. I appreciate you looking at this document. It's a lengthy document, as you know. A lot of information. We've been working on this for over 9 months to get this here to this point. So I brought a couple of my staff members who are sitting over here behind me, so I can't take all the credit for it. I got to give them most of the credit for doing all the heavy lifting. But thanks for coming, guys. But let me go ahead and get started tonight for presentation. Why do we have a CIP? Let's start with this. Our CIP represents an ongoing planning process through which the city identifies, prioritizes, and develops a multi-year work plan for major capital expenditures and their associated funding sources. The CIP documents the project details required to improve and maintain the City of Gilroy's roadways, our parks, facilities, and other infrastructure throughout the community. The definition of a CIP project, in order for it to get in this book, it must have a total value greater than $25,000. Its estimated useful life of or extending estimated useful life by 5 years or more, requiring advanced planning and design, have a project duration of more than 3 months from inception to completion, primarily a non-recurring project, and developed or implemented at a fixed location within city limits. The CIP budget book includes 125 project charters. Each of those charters, if you look to those, does an excellent job of defining what the projects are and what we're proposing to accomplish. 75 of those 125 projects are proposed for the funding in the next 5-year CIP plan with council. Of those projects, 8 are engineering projects, 13 are public facility projects, 16 street projects, 33 utility projects, which is storm drain, sewer, water, and parks and trail projects. Tonight we're here to discuss and have the findings of the general plan consistency. I've been doing this for about 30 years, and every time these projects come through, we go before our planning commissions and make sure they take a look at it as far as general plan consistency to make sure it falls in line with our general plan. The staff has reviewed the projects in the CIP before you tonight and found on our level to have general plan consistency. And attached to the staff report is a list of CIP projects with their associated general plan policies and or goals to indicate consistency with the document, which you will find. The recommendation tonight, staff recommends that the Planning Commission, number 1, receive the report on the proposed fiscal year 24-28 capital improvement program and adopt a resolution to make a finding of consistency with the general plan. The next steps after we meet tonight, we'll take whatever your finding is to the City Council for action on June 5th. And I'm here to answer any questions that you all may have tonight regarding the CIP plan.
Commissioners, any questions?
Thank you. So, and thank you for responding to some of my questions via email and phone call. I do have a few questions. How many, I asked this before, and I don't think maybe you understood my answer, my question in the email. So I'm curious as to what projects on this current CIP are not being done and completed that were planned to be done and completed, that may or may not be on the proposed CIP.
So you're asking about the projects who are not looking...
They were scheduled to be done on this current existing CIP plan. Did any of them not get done? Let's start with that question.
There are several of them that did not get done. And they typically, every time you have a 5-year CIP, it's typical that those always roll over into the next one. It happens every time.
Okay,
Yes.
and so they were rolled over is
Yes,
what I'm
ma'am,
asking.
yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that anything that was not done that was scheduled to be done was rolled over.
Typically, a city will accomplish maybe 40 to 75% of a 5-year plan, but they never actually complete a 100% rollout. So,
okay. The Gourmet Alley and Railway Alley, it's a $3.9 million grant that must be completed by the deadline, which is at the end of next year.
that's correct.
And I'm a little bit concerned that only 10% of it has been spent, and how confident are you that this is going to be completed, given that it doesn't appear that any construction stuff has started, and given the winter that we had this past year, and they're projecting a similar one this coming year? How confident are you that it'll get done?
I completely understand your question. You do realize this is not what we're talking about tonight. We're here about consistency with the general plan.
Okay, so I was told, I did ask the question why. I was very confused. Again, I'm new, and
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah.
I'm like, well, I thought stuff came to us first, and then we made a recommendation, then it goes to council, and why did council have this several weeks before us and have several meetings on it? And it doesn't make sense that now it's coming to us. We have nothing to recommend if they've already pretty much put it into the budget. I know they haven't voted on it. They're voting it on. So I was confused by all this, and what I was told was the only reason that we're having this meeting tonight is because they needed to have another public hearing. So I created some questions that I documented some questions that had been asked of me already, and then some questions that had been anticipated. So given that it's a public hearing, I'm just trying to answer questions that came to me.
I understand. We've had 4 public hearings regarding the specific project you're talking about to answer most of those questions to the community and concerned citizens. Again, tonight, since you're new to this process, our major goal here is to make sure it's consistent with the general plan. We're not talking about budget. We're not talking about construction timeframes. We're not talking about when it comes to council or when it comes to planning commission. We can have that discussion offline, but tonight that's not what this presentation is
Okay, I
about.
asked it,
Yeah.
and you're not answering it. That's fine. So
So what's the consistency? Some stuff gonna get done, some not gonna get done, and we move on. Is that, what's the key, what are the key words for consistency here? Since we're not talking about anything else, it's just, what's the consistency?
Well, I'm hoping that Sharon or someone has talked to you a little bit about, have you been through the general plan, reviewed the general plan, and how these projects are supposed to align with the general plan's goals? That's what we're doing. And if you look at each one of the charters, if you've looked at that, it makes a statement about how they relate to the consistency to the general plan. So you'll be able to look at every single project and see where we have found findings that they actually do correlate with the approved general plan. Now, as far as them getting done on time, that's the City Council's determination. Even though we have these in the CIP budget, they may choose not to even do them when they come in front of them to be awarded. They don't have to approve all these. This document does not approve construction for any projects. Council still reserves the right to spend any dollar on any project. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
So, in the general plan, it does have the Santa Teresa Fire District Firehouse.
okay.
That is being pushed out again. It's not scheduled to start on this plan that is in front of us. And so I'm a little bit confused, and again, I understand my role is not to worry about the budget, but given that it does, it is on the general plan to be built, looking at the numbers, I'm concerned by that. We've put away $2.9 million towards the gap, but that was in 2019, and it's not even on this 5-year plan, which means 9 years after that 2.9 was set aside. And it seems that it is reliant completely on whether or not Glen Loma builds that 1,100th house. Am I reading this correctly?
I believe you are. There's what we call a development agreement. And what a development agreement does is it binds the developer to provide certain infrastructure items along a progress of their projects. And so once they pull that last permit that you mentioned, they're obligated to provide us the property that's already been allocated for us to have that to build the firehouse. Currently, since they haven't pulled that permit, we don't have that lot available to us.
And
Okay,
can you tell me?
hold on, I'm sorry to interrupt. That's not exactly what the contract says. The contract says that before pulling the 1,100th permit, that fire station is supposed to be turnkey.
That has nothing to do with discussion tonight.
But I
understand.
just want to,
The development agreement isn't on here. What I think I could help try to explain is the Glen Loma specific plan was adopted, and at the time it was adopted, it was in compliance with the general plan, because you have to have your specific plan consistent with your general plan. And all the build-out through the specific plan showing parks, roads, streets would be considered consistent with the general plan or the Glen Loma specific plan. So having it in this, that's what you're reviewing. And I can tell people that a lot of this is infrastructure, roads, and improvements. And there's an element in the general plan that is circulation. And so in the circulation element of the general plan, some of the goals and policies would be to develop roads and bridges when they're
Correct.
triggered, or to maintain certain PCI for streets, and also provide for, implementing the other portions of the two specific plans that the city has, which is Hecker Pass and Glen Loma.
Absolutely.
So these projects have already been, before they're approved as CIP projects, there's already been some review and approval that they are consistent with the city's general plan, zoning, specific plans, goals, and policies. But by law and by the city charter, the Planning Commission needs to review the 5-year CIP and determine if these projects are consistent with the general plan.
That is correct. Yes. Thank you.
And on that, I'm sorry to
Go ahead.
Please go ahead.
So I'm not going to get an answer on the status update of the Gourmet Alley, and nor will I get information on the Santa Teresa Fire Department. Another question that was asked of me, the first this probably doesn't align with the general plan as well. You'll probably tell me that, but I'm going to ask it because I was asked to ask it. The first in Kern signal that is being proposed, will that allow for a left-hand turn from Kern to First?
Yes, it will.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question, the traffic calming project, I didn't see where the residential areas were identified.
In a specific project?
In this CIP. I believe it was on page 85 of the packet. I don't know what page it was on the CIP. But it was talking about the traffic calming project, and it talked about residential areas. Traffic calming, yeah. I don't see where it identifies it.
We do have funds for traffic calming on an annual basis. We take in applications, probably at least a dozen or more every year for traffic calming, and we already have funding for that outside of the CIP. These small projects do not align with a CIP project like we talked about at the beginning, $25,000 or more and what have you. So those are ongoing projects, so maybe that's what.
So you just clump a big budget into, and then dependent upon where it is needed?
That's correct.
I see.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
The fire station remodels and updates,
Yes.
Thank God those are in there. But can you tell me, how comprehensive those are? I mean, I'm assuming that somebody went through and identified a list of projects that needed to be done. Are all of them being done?
There's
10% of them being done?
There's a preliminary of that list that you just mentioned, but we're going to send a professional in there to outline all of those specifically and get the cost for them. That's in the budget as well. So, I mean, we need some of them have just single bathrooms.
Yeah.
We can't do that anymore. There's retrofitting. There's all kinds of remodeling needs to be done on both of them. So we have money in there the goal is to do 100% on each location.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I don't know anything about HVACs and the Bay things. Is it going to be more costly to put that off and do that later than to just do it at the same time of the remodel?
We look at that at that time. When the costs come in and we look at budget, we'll make that decision when we get the bids on that. I'd like to do it all at one time, of course. We don't want to tear the ceiling out and then come back and put in a new HVAC unit.
Okay, I have one more question,
Sure.
and thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
No, these are good questions.
Unfunded projects, not being addressed until the next cycle, or is there any way that they can, are you exploring other options like grants or donations and things like that? Especially there were some things like parks and sidewalks and the Parks Master Plan, are there other funding sources that you will continue to look for, or are they just put off for the next 5 years?
No, that is a great question. We never know when we're going to get a grant, right? It's a roll of the dice every time. Matter of fact, the project you brought up, Gourmet Alley, wasn't planned until the grant came in, and all of a sudden, you've got a year and a half to spend the money. You've got the grant.
No, I'm familiar with the grant, but I'm just wondering, will this be something that staff will be exploring ongoing?
We're always looking for, and we've also seen council reverse and go to a project that's not funded and pull money from another project and fund that because that's become the priority. So It's dormant now, and the way that process works is I meet with every director for every department, like the fire department.
Mm-hmm.
They give me the list of what they want, like we just discussed, and then it goes before the budget committee with the finance director and the city manager, and they look at, well, where are we going to get the money from? Can we fund this? Well, let's do as much as we can with this and push this off because we don't currently show funding methods, but there may be one in the future. So let's keep it in the books so it's still active in case we do get a funding source. So yeah, it's still an option, yes.
Thank you.
No, those are good questions. I appreciate that.
Commissioners, any more questions?
I have a question. There's a section in the CIP about park facilities and improving the structures. Mm-hmm. It didn't seem, maybe I missed it, did it also include the facilities within the loos and the sinks and things like that, or is it just the outer, the building?
Each of the project in the charter should tell you specifically what those are for. Again, however, we just got a $3 million grant that another one that we weren't counting on for Los Animas, I believe. San Ysidro. So that's mostly outside lighting, new tables, new barbecues, new surfacing, what have you. But as far as actual buildings, I don't believe there's a lot of money in there for buildings except for replacing the restrooms.
That's what I'm speaking of.
Yes.
Because it only seemed to be speaking about the structure and not the facilities within.
Oh, yeah.
Everything.
It's a turnkey. What we're looking at, I've done before, is they build these prefab bathrooms from wherever, off-site. They roll them in on a flatbed, and they set them down. It's got all the utilities inside them. It's just a hookup, and everything works. So everything comes with it. They are non-flammable. As you know, we've had multiple fires. There's somebody out there setting fires to all of our bathrooms out in our parks and to our arbors, and it's just crazy. But these are supposed to be non-flammable, and so they'll last much longer. So each year you'll see that we have one we're replacing for the next 5 years.
Okay. Thank you.
No, but those were burned down too. They burnt those as well. So, but no, we're not putting in porta potties. We're putting in actual solid concrete structures. Yes. Amazing.
I also would thank you for responding to my question regarding page 75 of the CIP. And my question was regarding some verbiage there, talking about, if I can quote, the city, regarding the new fire station as part of the Glen Loma specific plan. And it says the city and developer agreed to wait until construction costs come down, or the city could provide gap funding to assist with constructing the fire station. On November 18th, 2019, the City Council approved additional funding needed to build the Santa Teresa fire station. So on the 19th, they moved funds, like you said, from the city park of the Glen Loma project to fund the fire station. They also approved the fire station design, and there was a commitment to complete that fire station by January of this year. Now, at no time, and never have I heard from or speaking to anyone, has anyone known that the decision to not build was due to the waiting for construction costs to decrease over time. Additionally, the funds were not transferred until June of last year. So that is 3 years after this decision had been made. I take umbrage with the comment that we as a city are waiting for construction costs to come down. By keeping it in this document, it gives the reason for the fire station not having started, that's what we're waiting for.
I think there was an or in that comment, too. I would lean more on the or, not the waiting for costs to come down. From which department that came from, I'm not sure. But anyway, you're talking about funding, and that's out of all of our jurisdiction here. So,
but it is part of the specific plan. And if this is a 5-year plan and we are not planning to do anything with this fire station for the next 5 years.
The fire station has been talked about multiple times at city council meetings if you've attended those.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Okay.
But you understand my concern about the delay in starting it, that the verbiage here implies that is why we have delayed, that we are waiting for that.
I understand the issues with the verbiage. We are ready to move on that new construction as soon as we get that parcel under our control.
Okay. Or do we understand, in here there is no plan for the cost gap that has grown since 2019 to now?
All of that will come in front of the city council for their direction.
All of this funding and these decisions are council decisions.
Yes.
Understood.
And so I think we really need to keep on topic. I mean, talking about this fire station and the funding is really not consistency with the general plan.
And I'd be happy to entertain anybody on the commission who'd love to come to the department. We can sit down for an hour or two and go over the thoroughness of any of all these and go through them for you. But this venue is not a venue for budget, really. So.
No, I am not recommending another continuance. We wanted to have this sooner, and you all voted, you weren't here, but not to have that meeting that was suggested by the Community Development Director. And so then the council was already had a planned study session on this, and so we would have, if you had had that meeting on the 25th, we would have reviewed it, and then the council would have had that study session on the budget, and we would be in sync. But because of the Planning Commission's actions, you are now, the council's had the study session, and we now need to make some sort of decision and recommendation of consistency with the general plan. This cannot be continued. It's a high priority for the council and for the city administrator because it directly impacts the budget. And we can't keep pushing this down. We need to really make some sort of decision tonight.
I agree with Councilor Houston that we should not delay this, but I do want to say that we voted no because there would not have been a quorum.
On the 25th, because it was
Correct.
not a regularly scheduled meeting. And just out of curiosity, can you tell me again when that second special study session was with council?
It was this Monday. It was just this Monday, wasn't it? The budgets, last Monday.
So not this past Monday, that was Memorial Day.
Yeah.
So it was the week before that. What was that date?
Yeah.
I think it was the 22nd. Yeah, and just to point out what was proposed, that we would meet on the 25th, which would have been after that meeting anyways. So I just want to point that out.
Thank you. But we were trying to get the meeting scheduled
On the 25th.
on the 25th. And Sharon, there was a reason why you wanted it on the 25th, and I know it tied in with the city's budget session too.
Yeah, I was given a range of dates during which to schedule that, and this room was already reserved on 2 out of those few days. So that's why it was either the Thursday or Friday, and I think most would more likely to be able to attend on a Thursday than a Friday night. So that's really it ended up being the only day I was able to even
But the room was reserved to the city council?
No, but we have other community meetings and workshops already.
okay.
Yeah, right.
There was a reason why we wanted to have it sooner than now.
Correct. Well,
I know.
because the budget adoption is scheduled for next Monday, and the packet will be published today.
So
basically
we
the-
wanted the input then, so.
Great. Any more questions, comments, concerns? All right.
Just one quick comment. I think I speak on everybody's behalf that we would probably like to take you up on that suggestion to maybe meet offline and
That'd be
to
great.
discuss that, because I think we all have questions about it,
Sure.
and so there's some community members and they're approaching us with those questions. So
Absolutely.
it would be nice to be able
Would
to
be glad
respond.
to do that anytime.
Okay.
Let us know.
Thanks.
All right. I'm going to open it up to public comment if there is any.
There are no speakers.
So are we required to make a motion, given that this is truly just for public hearing purpose?
I believe the packet says that you are to make a motion on the resolution. So you need a motion for that resolution.
All right. I'm going to close it to
Daryl,
public comment.
If you want to move to that slide with the recommendation.
Thank you.
So the motion could be receive the report, blah, 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 and adopt the resolution. You could do it all in one. You could combine A and B into one.
Okay, I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission receive the report on proposed fiscal year 24 through 28 capital improvement program, CIP, and adopt a resolution to make a finding of consistency with the general plan.
I second it.
Ariana, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Alley?
No.
Commissioner Leongard?
No.
Commissioner Lewis?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramirez?
Yes.
Vice Chair Kushner?
Yes.
Chair Bondal?
Yes. Resolution passes 4-2.
Thank you, Commission.
Thank you very much. Moving on to informational items. Keep it off. Planning, division. I have no questions.
Oh, sorry. I think that we had one that's the approval and then.
Oh, yes, sorry, the approval.
Okay. Then I can give a brief report on a few things. And as Chair mentioned, Commissioner Montes, she submitted her resignation this morning, just to make sure you're all aware. And on May 22nd, I had sent out an email regarding the virtual planning commissioner training on June 23rd. So just a reminder, to let us know if you're interested. We heard back from one commissioner, so yeah, please feel free to reply and let us know. And I think in the email has said, let Zinnia know so she can work on your registration. And we have it at the end of the agenda that our next meeting will be on July 20th. I know last time after our meeting, a couple of commissioners had mentioned, during that first week of July, because of July 4th holiday, they're hoping that we can do the third Thursday, that's our kind of a backup date according to the schedule the commissioners adopted. So, yeah, so the next meeting will be July 20th, and we will have a project. And then last but not least, hopefully I'm not sure what format you've looked at the packet tonight for the PDF, and Ariana actually manually bookmarked each section in the whole attachment so that you can easily access the document. Just want to share that. It was she spent a lot of time to make it easier for all of you guys, for staff as well. So we were able to go through the sections easier. So yeah, wanted to just share that. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I have a quick question. Is what's coming before us in January, is that going to be one of those, sorry, oh God. Oh, thank you, July. Is that going to be one of those larger projects that we might be able to read up on in advance as we move closer to it, that might be posted on our project list?
Actually, I'll confirm with Craig when he's back. Yes.
Thank you very much.
So I've tried to find this elusive project list people talk about, and I have not been able to. Can you send me the direct link?
Yes, actually, if you go back to 8.1, so it's that link at the bottom of that report.
Okay, so that's great, but can you send it to me via email so I can pin it on my home computer rather than...
Oh, sure, yeah.
Thanks. Because I've tried to look for it online on the website, and I can't.
Yeah, the project schedule used to be a small version at the end of the packet, and then we had complaints that it was too small to read, and so then it got blown up into a larger, and then it now has been shrunk again, I guess, in color coded, I guess.
Okay, I did not go through
it.
The
was one of those things
formatting.
that, I never knew. I've just kind of heard about it, and then I asked a former planning commissioner what it was. And when I learned about what it was, I thought, well, that would be something that I probably would like to be aware of. But I tried to find it on my own on the website and was not able to find it. So if you could just send me the direct link from the city website in an email, then I can just pin that somewhere.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Sure, yes. And actually, I think that was prior to my arrival. I wasn't even aware of the formatting changes.
Yeah, it changed a few times.
It has. It's kind of grown and shrunk.
All right. Any more questions for Sharon? No? All right, moving on to 10, Assistant City Attorney Report.
We've been talking about training, and I believe, Sharon, we're doing training in June, right, or July?
July.
July?
Yeah.
Okay, so our office is working on it, and it's to prepare you for the new zoning update. So everybody has a pretty good background on, the general plan, specific plans, zoning, and then use permits, variances, and stuff that also can implement the zoning. So we're trying to keep them short, right around an hour. And so the first one is going to be like the land use background. So stay tuned. We're working on that one, and then
Will that be at the July 20th meeting then? During a regularly scheduled meeting?
Yes, it's a regular scheduled one, and that's why we don't want to take up too much time. But we just want to make sure, because we have new people, and we'll probably be getting another new person, just so because looking at a whole new zoning code that is supposed to be adopted and then help implement the general plan, and we wanted everybody to kind of be at the same place, and so when we do that training, it will be so you'll be able to look at the new zoning and have some sort of background. So and I believe that virtual planning commission training will be a good background too, and it's virtual, so you don't have to go drive anywhere. So that was because some of them were in person, and a lot of people couldn't make them. So this virtual one, I think, is going to be a good one for people to attend, and it's all day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's a long one. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. With that, I'm going to adjourn to our next meeting of July 20th, 2023 at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. next meeting gonna be long. It's gonna be a long meeting. Big package, training.